Tonight, we strongly encourage everyone to stay home if you do not have to be out.
News right now, we know the trial date for the man accused of Memphis rapper Young Dolph. Prosecutors say Hernandez Govan was the mastermind in the back in November of 2021.
When Yo Gotti packed his bags and vanished from Dallas, the whispers started almost immediately. This wasn't just a casual relocation or a strategic business move. This was something far more urgent, far more calculated. And if you've been paying attention to the mounting chaos surrounding his name, it's easy to see why. For weeks, Gotti's world has been unraveling, and now the cracks are impossible to ignore. Federal agents circling, old grudges surfacing, and a web of accusations so tangled that even the most seasoned observers are struggling to keep track. What's clear is this: something big is coming, and Gotti knows it.
We see Yo Gotti lost his brother.
Yeah.
Was at a funeral and his brother ended up losing his life. Savage, how do we stop that cycle? Because I heard Rick Ross call and say, bro, let's put the guns down. Let's put the masks down. Let's come together.
Yeah.
Let's build these communities. Let's get this paper together.
The timing couldn't be worse. Gotti has spent years cultivating his image as a savvy entrepreneur, a self-made mogul who turned his collective music group into a powerhouse. But behind the polished veneer, there's a storm brewing. One that's tied to the streets, to old rivalries, and, most damningly, to the tragic demise of Young Dolph. This isn't just about rap beef or industry politics. This is about allegations that cut deeper, about connections that could turn Gotti's empire into a house of cards. And now, with federal investigators reportedly looking into his ties to a series of incidents that have rocked Memphis and beyond, the stakes have never been higher.
Robert Thornton Jr., known as Young Dolph, rose to fame mixing tapes and was soon hitting the national music charts.
His attracted a large crowd to the cookie store on Airways Boulevard, many frustrated and angry that this could happen here.
Let's start with the most explosive claim, that Gotti's late brother, Anthony Big Juke Mims, placed a bounty on Young Dolph's head. A bounty that allegedly set off a chain of events leading to Dolph's untimely end. The courtroom revelations have been chilling, witnesses testifying about secret meetings, cash payouts, and promises of record deals that never materialized. Cornelius Smith, one of the men directly charged in Dolph's case, took the stand and pointed fingers with a certainty that sent shockwaves through the courtroom. He didn't mince words. Big Juke, he claimed, had orchestrated the whole thing, dangling financial incentives like bait on a hook.
Yo Gotti's brother, Big Juke, got after leaving a funeral. And from what I understand, he was at a restaurant with his mother. He was coming out.
They was coming out the repast of the viewing of the body in a driveway, the parking lot, I thought it was.
But what's even more damning is the alleged role of Gotti's label, CMG. According to testimony, after the hit was carried out, someone connected to the label shelled out a hefty sum to cover legal fees for one of the accused. Cornelius Smith, for his part, claimed he only saw a fraction of the money he was promised, barely enough to cover living expenses, let alone the consequences of what he'd done. And yet, CMG allegedly stepped in with a lawyer, a move that prosecutors are now scrutinizing as part of a broader pattern. Was this a one-off gesture, or is it part of something far more sinister? The courtroom drama has only scratched the surface, but the implications are staggering. Then there's the testimony about the motivations behind the hit. Prosecutors allege that Big Juke's bounty wasn't just about money, it was about power. Young Dolph had built his own empire, paper route empire, from the ground up, rejecting Gotti's offers to sign with CMG in favor of independence. That decision, according to insiders, didn't sit well with Gotti or his camp. Dolph's success was seen as a challenge, a public rejection that bruised egos and sparked a feud that would escalate over the years. Diss tracks flew back and forth, social media jabs turned personal, and the tension reached a boiling point. By the time Dolph released his scathing track, Play Wit Yo B, which mocked Gotti's personal life, the feud had moved from the studio to the streets. And now, with the courtroom revelations, it seems the animosity may have crossed an unforgivable line.
I don't think that ever would stop. It's just my opinion. Like, people been forever. It's life.
But what are they actually for?
Nothing. But you can't, there's nothing that you can somebody for that validates.
Right.
But But if Gotti thought he could remain untouchable, the events of the past few months have proven otherwise. The federal spotlight is now shining directly on him, and the whispers of a potential RICO case grow louder by the day. The parallels to other recent high-profile cases in the hip-hop world are impossible to ignore. When Wack 100, the ever-controversial music manager, took to Clubhouse to weigh in, he didn't hold back. Gotti, you better say your prayers, he warned, drawing a direct comparison to the YSL investigation that left another music powerhouse reeling. Whether Wack's claims are based on insider knowledge or pure speculation, one thing is clear: Gotti's name is now firmly in the crosshairs, and the implications could be devastating. What's particularly striking is how quickly the narrative has shifted. For years, Gotti managed to sidestep the drama, keeping his hands clean while those around him faced the fallout. But now, with Big Jook's name tied to the Dolph case and CMG's alleged involvement under scrutiny, the walls are closing in. And it's not just the legal system he has to worry about. The streets have their own way of settling scores, and the ripple effects of Dolph's loss have been felt far and wide. Retaliations, tensions, and a body count that continues to rise. This isn't just a legal battle, it's a fight for survival.
He walked out, his mother got in the van or the truck or something, and he was standing out, and the guys attacked him.
Yeah. And then now he has to bury his brother.
Yeah.
And then he had this huge police presence there because they were thinking they was going to keep going and someone else was going to get shot. And it's a sad situation, man. And
Gotti's move to Dallas was supposed to be a fresh start, a chance to expand CMG's reach and leave the Memphis drama behind. He even made a show of it, signing a local artist and announcing plans to open a new office in the city. But the timing couldn't be more suspect. Just as the courtroom revelations were making headlines, Gotti was packing his bags and putting distance between himself and the chaos. Coincidence? Hardly. The whispers about his sudden departure have only fueled speculation that he's running, not just from the law, but from the mounting pressure of a situation spiraling out of control. And yet, even in Dallas, the shadows of his past followed him. Reports began to surface of federal agents quietly building a case connecting the dots between CMG, Big Jook, and the events that led to Dolph's untimely end. The possibility of a RICO case looms large, with prosecutors reportedly exploring whether CMG operates as more than just a record label. The allegations, payouts, bounties, and a pattern of violence paint a picture of an organization that's as much about street politics as it is about music. And if the feds decide to pursue that angle, Gotti's carefully constructed empire could come crashing down.
Well, police have finally cleared this scene, but there are family members and fans here tonight. And as you can see behind me, they have boarded up the windows of this business that were damaged or shattered by gunfire. Police are asking for calm as they investigate this.
For now, Gotti remains silent, his social media a carefully curated mix of business updates and motivational posts. But behind the scenes, the pressure is mounting. The courtroom drama, the federal investigation, the ongoing tensions in Memphis, it's all reaching a boiling point. And as the pieces continue to fall into place, one question looms larger than any other. How much longer can Gotti hold it all together? Because if the whispers are true and the feds are indeed circling, the fallout could be unlike anything the hip-hop world has ever seen.
This was a shooting that occurred at a cookie shop. And we're just not sure what that motivation was. And it's a little bit too early for us to.
And while the federal scrutiny tightens like a noose, the streets aren't waiting for the law to catch up. The fallout from Young Dolph's assassination has turned Memphis into a powder keg. And it's clear that the consequences of this feud are spiraling into something far more chaotic than anyone anticipated. The city's undercurrent of tension has become a full-blown vendetta, with every whispered name on the wrong side of this conflict seeming to meet a violent and calculated end. The most chilling part? This isn't just about old grudges or misguided loyalty. It's about the systematic dismantling of every perceived threat tied to this twisted saga.
This is the problem, Black. A lot of the celebrities, they have a voice, they do their music. But what people don't realize, when you have a beef, these are real street guys. It's just you have the voice. Mm-hmm. So people hear you, they don't hear me because, I'm in the hood or I'm down here. But I will still pull up and spray and do what I gotta do.
Take Big Jook's demise, for example. His end wasn't just another act of street violence, it was a statement, a brutal punctuation mark in a war that refuses to end. The fact that it happened in broad daylight right after a funeral speaks volumes. These aren't random acts of chaos. This is precision, strategy, and unrelenting retaliation. And the message couldn't be clearer. No one is untouchable, not even Gotti's own blood. The chilling detail of Juke's car being riddled with bullets while his family narrowly escaped adds a sinister layer to this already disturbing narrative. It's not just business, it's deeply, darkly personal. But Juke's end wasn't the only loss that sent shockwaves through the city. The streets have long memories, and they've been quietly tallying every perceived slight, every disrespect, and every betrayal. The body count has been climbing steadily, and each name tells a story of alliances shattered and payback served cold. There's Darian, the comedian who thought mocking the tragedy was a quick route to viral fame. His fate was sealed before his punchlines could even fade. Then there's Big Nusky, gunned down outside his apartment complex in what locals called a brazen show of force. These aren't coincidences, they're consequences, and they're coming fast.
But now that I'm older, it's like I look at it from like an older point of view.
Right.
But when I was younger, it was like, if somebody your brother, like, what can stop you from wanting to kill their brother?
You seeking revenge.
Like, what can stop you from wanting to do that? You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
The most unsettling part is how deeply these events have intertwined with the local rap scene. This isn't just about record labels or rivalries. It's about a culture where success comes with a target on your back. For every artist trying to make their mark, there's an unspoken understanding. You're only as safe as the company you keep. And in the case of Yo Gotti's camp, that company is under fire from every direction. The connections between some of these victims and Gotti's label aren't just whispers. They're receipts, photos, and undeniable links that paint a clear picture of allegiance. And allegiance, in this case, comes with a steep price. Take CEO TZ, for instance. His ties to the infamous Trill Mafia and his proximity to key players in this saga made him a marked man long before his name hit the headlines. When his body was discovered in that bullet-riddled car outside a church, it wasn't just another statistic. It was another domino falling in a chain reaction that's far from over. And then there's Lada Cash Desto, whose fate sent shockwaves through the industry. Her connection to Hernandez Govan, the alleged architect of Dolph's demise, made her an unwitting participant in a game she never asked to play. That tragic loss wasn't just collateral damage, it was a brutal reminder that in this war, no one is safe.
Today was the last day, like you said, that Govan and his defense team had to accept that plea deal from prosecutors, and that's why a trial date.
But here's the thing. Tezzy's demise wasn't just a random act of retaliation. According to whispers from the streets, Tezzy had been moving recklessly in the weeks leading up to his end. There were reports of him boasting about his connections, dropping hints about knowing too much. Some say he was trying to leverage that information for protection, while others believe he was trying to climb higher within the ranks of his crew. Whatever the truth is, his sudden departure from this world sent a ripple effect through Memphis, leaving people wondering if he'd been silenced to prevent even more damaging revelations from coming to light. And then there's the car itself, the one found outside the church, riddled with bullet holes, as if sending a message to anyone paying attention. It wasn't just a random vehicle. Sources claim it was registered to an associate of Tezzy's who had ties to both Trill Mafia and another faction deeply embedded in Memphis's underground network. That detail alone has sparked rumors that Tezzy's actions weren't just rubbing one group the wrong way, he may have been playing both sides in a dangerous game. If true, this would explain the sheer ferocity of the attack. It wasn't just about eliminating Tezzy, it was about making sure no one else got any ideas of following his path.
Our hearts go out to the Thornton family and all who are affected by this horrific act of violence. We are committed to working with the community to stop these senseless We're also dedicated to bringing those responsible for today's shooting and others to.
What makes Tezzy's situation even darker is the timing. His end came just days after a rumored meeting between several high-profile figures in Memphis's rap and street circles. Figures who have managed to stay off the radar but whose influence is quietly felt in every corner of the city. Some believe that meeting was a last-ditch effort to broker peace, while others claim it was about dividing territory and solidifying alliances. Either way, Tezzy's name reportedly came up, and not in a favorable light. Was his fate decided in that room? Did someone at that meeting mark him as a liability that needed to be dealt with? And yet, for all the speculation, there's an eerie silence surrounding his passing. No public statements, no tributes from those who once stood by his side, just a void that speaks louder than words. It's as if everyone involved knows that to say too much would be to invite the same fate. This is the kind of chilling reality that has gripped Memphis in the wake of Young Dolph's assassination. A world where loyalty is fleeting, alliances are fragile, and the cost of saying the wrong thing or even being in the wrong place can be your life.
Has now been set. Now the prosecution, well, they say Govin was the one who recruited the shooters, Young Dolph, while the defense says otherwise.
And yet, even as the streets erupt, the legal battles rage on. The courtroom revelations surrounding CMG have painted a damning portrait of a label that operates more like a syndicate than a music collective. The accusations of payouts, coercion, and calculated moves to silence witnesses have turned what should have been a grieving process for Dolph's loved ones into a relentless pursuit of accountability. And for Gotti, the stakes couldn't be higher. If the feds decide to pull the trigger on a RICO case, the ripple effects would be catastrophic, not just for him, but for everyone tied to his empire. But let's not forget the broader implications of this saga. For Memphis, this isn't just a story about two rappers and their entourages. It's a reflection of a city grappling with cycles of violence that have claimed far too many lives. It's about a community that's been left to pick up the pieces while the headlines focus on the drama. And it's about a culture that continues to blur the lines between art and reality, where success can be as dangerous as failure. As the dust continues to settle, or more accurately refuses to settle, one thing is clear: this story is far from over. The question isn't just what happens to Yo Gotti or his label, it's what happens to Memphis. Will this feud ever truly end, or is it destined to drag more names into its orbit? And as the spotlight continues to shine on Gotti, CMG, and the federal investigation, one can't help but wonder, how much longer can they keep the house of cards from collapsing? Let us know your thoughts down below, and we'll catch you in the next one.